Thank you, Chairman Jordan, Ranking Member Scanlon, members of the committee. I appreciate the opportunity to speak before you today. When I became a member of the State Bar of Texas in 2006, I took an oath, solemnly swearing to uphold and support the Constitution of the United States, to honestly demean myself in the practice of law, to discharge my duties to the best of my ability, and to conduct myself with integrity and civility. I know many of you have taken a similar oath, and I know that all of us have sworn and signed an oath to support and defend the Constitution of the United States when we became members of this Congress. And that's why I'm before you this morning. As historian Heather Cox Richardson so eloquently explained in her book, Democracy Awakening, the Constitution established a representative democracy, a republic in which voters would elect lawmakers who would represent the people. The legislative branch would be a balance to a single leader at the head of the executive branch. Each would prevent the rise of a tyrant on the other side. Congress would write all the necessary and proper laws, levy taxes, borrow money, pay the nation's debts, establish a postal service, establish courts, declare war, support an army and navy, and organize and call forth the militia to execute the laws of the Union, and provide for the common defense and general welfare of the United States. The president would execute the laws, but if Congress overstepped, the president could veto proposed legislation, and in turn, Congress could override a presidential veto. As all of us here know, the framers created the Congress, the House and the Senate, devising a system of representative democracy that has endured for more than 200 years. And as you know, they enumerated a Bill of Rights as the first 10 amendments to the Constitution. That system and the rights of the Americans that it protects has been under assault this year. And it is the responsibility of this Congress and this committee to protect them. I'm sorry to say that this Congress appears to be failing to do so. That's why I introduced with Representative Garamendi H.R. 603, reaffirming the principles of the U.S. Constitution, including the separation of powers and the rule of law, which is before this committee. Since January 20th of this year, the executive branch, the Article II branch of government, has undermined the separation of powers enumerated in the Constitution between the Congress, the courts, and the executive. Under the leadership and at the direction of President Trump, the executive branch has overstepped its authority and undermined the institutions that uphold the rule of law, that guarantee free and fair elections, that regulate commerce, that protect public health, that conduct oversight, that engage with people and nations around the world, expanding the power of the presidency to implement dangerous and divisive policies. From executive orders and actions encouraging lawlessness, eviscerating progress for all Americans, and abandoning our allies and our leadership in the world. The harms to Americans are apparent now and will be for generations to come if Congress does not act and assert its authority. Of course, congressional spending has been on all of our minds lately, and while appropriations is the work of another committee, protection of the mandate that spending bills originate in the Congress is part of the work of this committee. And yet, this administration has willfully ignored that principle, violating federal law by withholding funding authorized by Congress, canceling funding for federal programs Congress created and that communities across the country rely on, eviscerating bipartisan spending laws. This administration has frozen, canceled, clawed back, or illegally impounded investments Congress has made in public health, public safety, public welfare, public education, and public lands and protection of our environment. This House and Senate have utterly failed to respond to this attack on congressional authority and the refusal to spend congressionally appropriated funds. These are serious harms to the people we represent and serious harms to our Constitution's separation of powers. They are matched by the grave harm to our constitutional order that come from the president and the administration's efforts to censure dissent, to prohibit and intimidate Americans' peaceful assembly, to limit public participation and freedom to associate, whether that's by joining a union or organizing a protest, to restrain and exclude the press and the transparency that a free press brings, and to prohibit the free exercise of religion. All of these rights are protected by the Constitution and must be protected by this committee. And this committee must use its authority to protect the constitutional system of justice and the independence of the judiciary as this administration abuses its authority by intimidation, investigation, and prosecution of its critics. I urge the committee and the Congress to remember its purpose and to use its power to protect, support, and defend the people and the Constitution of the United States. Thank you.